form a more perfect union. We wrote a constitution and a bill of rights for life and liberty. In democracy, we carry responsibilities. In democracy, we need everyone to see that our democracy is counting on you and me.
Washington County is located in southeastern Ohio. It was the first county in the Northwest Territory and the state of Ohio. It is the fifth largest county in Ohio land-wise with 640 square miles. Population-wise, it is 43rd out of the 88 counties with a population of 59,168. Each county has 3 county commissioners, as does Washington County. They're responsible for managing and administering all the services in the county, such as collecting taxes, assessing property. If you go inside the county courthouse, you'll see many of the offices they oversee, recording public documents, budgeting, purchasing, land titles. They also oversee the sheriff's department, the county home, the Board of Elections, and all of these services for the county. County governments may only enforce state laws and cannot create laws that are not already part of the state ordinance. County commissioners use a variety of boards and commissions to help them run the county and do their planning. They have this list organizational chart here, which shows many of the commissions and boards: veterans, taxes, fair housing, children's services, boards of health. County commissioners are elected for 4-year terms, and they are responsible for having up to 50 meetings a year, but our county commissioners have many more meetings than that. And the meetings are each Thursday at the county commissioner's office on Putnam Street at 9 o'clock. So feel free to come, open to the public.
Good morning, my name is Joyce Robinson, and I'm here with Commissioner James Booth to discuss the workings of the County Commissioners. It's our privilege to be here with him today, and he's going to talk about what's going on the county level in Washington County, Ohio. So thank you so much for your time, Mr. Booth.
Thank you, Joyce.
First of all, what made you be motivated to run for County Commissioner?
Well, I'd like to really tell you this big elaborate story about call to service and all this, but it just kind of came organically. So the Village of Lowell's had some issues with water that's been in the news here of late.
Mm-hmm.
So I had started to get involved with Lowell, and their issues there. So in speaking with another elected official, which I'll leave their name out, I said, I really just don't want to be the mayor of Lowell. It just takes so much time and such. And they chuckled and they said, no, you need to run for commissioner. So that got a conversation started.
Mm-hmm.
So I spoke with my wife and my son, and we weighed the pros and cons of doing it, because we have 2 other businesses. So we have a trucking business and we have a housing rental business. So I don't go about things halfway. This was never to be a part-time job. This is full-time.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be full-time in the office, but it's full-time. You'll take a call at 6, 7 o'clock at night, answer emails, texts, and such. So we decided on a 2-to-1 vote out of those 3 that I would run for office.
The majority.
Yes. So my son was my campaign manager, Cameron, and we ran a grassroots campaign, literally knocking on doors and hanging door hangers, because that was actually when COVID started. So we did a lot of door hangers. We didn't bother a lot of folks with knocking on the door to a stranger. let's face it, nobody really knew who I was.
Okay.
So we just went out and knocked doors and walked parades and just got to know people and let people know me. And so it just kind of came organically.
The old-fashioned way.
It was.
Mhm.
It was. I put 15,000 miles on a vehicle just campaigning.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
So it was, yes.
I assume that you're glad that you were elected and that you're satisfied with.
I am.
So you're going to run again, I assume, at some point.
I am going to run again, yes.
Yes, okay. And how long is the county commissioner term?
4 years.
And is there a limit to how many terms you can serve?
There is not.
Okay.
I've spoken with commissioners that are on their 6th term.
Wow,
So
that's a pro. I would hope.
I just want to do I just want things to happen organically.
Okay.
So when it's time for me not to be here, then it's time for somebody else to take the reins.
Maybe your son.
Everybody,
know.
everybody has their own path.
That's true.
And my son has his path and I have mine and so on and so forth. So
Okay. Well, what are the main responsibilities of a county commissioner?
a county commissioner is mainly budgetary. So we control the county finances as far as spending money. We actually have one of the greatest jobs in between the auditor who assesses, for instance, property tax values, and the treasurer who collects money, and including collecting when it comes in from the state of sales tax, and then we appropriate the money
Okay.
and transfer monies from different funds and such. Now, this Board of Commissioners has been very proactive in a lot of issues throughout the county that is not required as a county commissioner. For instance, safe water. Commissioner Ritter had started the Washington County Safe Water Project, and about a year and a half ago, we had all the water suppliers of Washington County in this room here and asked them, what are your problems? What's it going to take to fix them? And we identified, or they identified actually, over $61 million of need, of safe water needs, just in the current infrastructure of water. So that's one initiative, just one initiative that we've been working on since then. Since that's happened, Lowell has received monies for temporary filtration of the extremely high iron and manganese needs, and monies to drill new wells on the island, and those will be filtered, and that is a low to moderate income area, so the Ohio EPA paid for that in full.
Okay.
So over $2.2 million to that small village. Also, there was assistance that was given to the village of Matamoros. And then just here a couple weeks ago, the Ohio EPA visited Washington County with 6 of their officials, including the director, the assistant director, the chief of drinking water, Amy Clyde. And we took them down to Little Hawking Water Association, where there is a pressure and capacity issue, with the western part of the county being just prime for economic development, and not only economic development, but to build houses. Without water to hook up to, it makes it real hard to do all that.
Sure does.
So we took them down and let them do a face-to-face. Just like in the campaign that I spoke of, I'm a face-to-face person, so I like to get people in front of each other.
Okay.
And they can really have that relationship. So when they call on the phone, they know who they're talking to.
Well, I have to say, after reading numerous articles in the paper, I've been really surprised at how old the water systems are for most of the towns in this area. And I'm glad something's being done about it.
It's been on a break-fix status for so long, and it's so expensive
Very expensive.
to do water. Water, sewer, all of that.
Yes.
Look at the DeBola Sewer Project. That was over a $15 million project that when this board came together a couple years ago, a little over a couple years ago, there was not the first dollar for that. And we were able to raise $15.118 million that didn't cost local taxpayers or the residents of DeBola or the other sewer customers
Yes.
those monies.
Well done. How can residents let you know their concerns about the county, what's the best way to communicate with the commissioners?
A lot of times an email works very, very easily. That's on the county website, and along with phone numbers and extensions, they can contact us anytime. We're elected. By all means, if there's an issue that needs addressed, that we have power to do anything with. Now, I've received questions about different issues. A lot of times it's about roads. So then you refer them to the county engineer, because that's what the county engineer does. So if they say, well, you know, the county roads aren't getting, maybe they didn't get plowed that one time or got a little slick, then you'll refer them to Roger Wright in the county engineer's office.
Okay.
And we work well with the other elected officials and department heads, conveying that information.
Okay. Actually, I think the roads are pretty good.
I think we've got great roads. Our engineer does a bang-up job.
I would say the snow removal, I think is acceptable.
Mhm.
Having lived in Cleveland for over 30 years, there's no snow here.
Well, and as you know, yeah, and you had to deal with that lake effect snow.
That's right.
Yes.
Lots of snow. So there's no snow in Marietta.
So, but as you know, the closer you live to the epicenter of the county, when you live in Marietta, the roads get done very quickly.
Yes,
Of
they
course,
do.
that's a city. But as you move further out into the county, it takes longer to get out
Yes.
there. And that's a price that you pay for living outside of the city.
That's right. It's a
I-
compromise.
It is a compromise, correct?
Yes. Where would I find the agenda for your next meeting or future meetings?
That would also be on the county website, and that is
Okay.
published usually Tuesday afternoon.
Okay, so today it'll be on there for the next meeting?
Correct.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Are there any specific qualifications for running for commissioner?
You do need to be a resident of the county, and a registered voter, and be able to get the petition and such, go through the normal steps. But as far as that, there's
No age requirement?
No, ma'am,
Okay, so anybody can run.
that's correct,
I assume you have to be 18 and over.
correct.
Okay. What is your greatest concern regarding Washington County?
Wow, that's a hard one.
Well, I'm sure there's more than one, but you can.
There is.
You can
Safe,
share 2 or 3 if you wish.
safe water has been a huge concern, as we just spoke about. As a previous police officer, my concern is also the drugs and the crime.
Mhm.
Now, we have a great sheriff's department, and there's the drug task force, and there's the human trafficking unit. There is a lot of activity, we'll say. We have a major interstate that goes right through the middle of our county.
Yes.
And they should all know that it's always being watched. But you can't catch everything. There's
No.
just no way possible. I think our sheriff's department does a great job in keeping us safe. And at a moment's notice, if you call them, they come full bear. So I worry about our kids there. I worry about, and a lot of these things I have no say over. Please know that.
Okay.
I worry about the housing. I worry about everything that you're worried about, really. Do we have enough housing? Are we losing our kids to bigger cities? Our population, like a lot of rural counties, is declining. So we need to keep our kids here somehow, some way. We need to learn how to transfer our desire to stay within Washington County to our kids. We have to keep those professionals here. If they go to school to be a doctor, try to keep them here. Having that local doctor is key. Same as a police officer, same as fire and EMS. That is another great concern of mine. Most of our fire and EMS protection are volunteer.
Yes.
They donate their time, their money, time away from their families, mainly. A fire or an EMS call comes, they go. They don't even think twice. They go. They sacrificed all that time. I grew up with a Nova couple, Alan and Marcella Fleming. They've been in fire and EMS ever since I've known them. Since I was 5 years old, that I knew of them. And they were in there before that. And just last night I was at an EMS meeting where Marcella and Alan were there. They give so much of their time and their own money into that just to help the community. we can't lose that sense of of community volunteerism. I fear that we're losing some of that.
I fear that we're losing a lot of that.
We are.
I grew up in a small town of Hartfield, Ohio,
Okay.
which still has a volunteer fire department.
Mhm.
And I'm sure they're having a hard time replacing the people of my generation.
Everything costs so much more. To raise kids costs more. Daycare is so expensive. It's hard for these young people, but instilling that sense of giving back to the community, being something bigger than yourself,
Yes.
it is what these volunteers do.
Well, that feeling seems to have been lost in a lot of ways
It has.
in the present generation. I don't see that kind of desire to do what I used to do as a kid, or as a teenager, or as a young college kid.
It's because we have these phones in our hands.
Yeah, I would like to get rid of them for a while. You discussed the issues with Washington County. Could you rank them in order? What are your top 3 main issues in Washington County?
Well, I would say the water
The
as
water.
well, and the sewer. Of course, that project is ongoing now. That we named that the Washington County Sewer Project, and it's AKA the BOLA. So that project happening, we want to help all the water, but the sewer project that gets done, and not to disrupt too many lives as we're constructing that. This is the largest infrastructure project since I-77. This is a
Wow, that's a while back.
565 homes hooked up within 3 years. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So there's some concern there that we don't have costs overruns. Inflation is a huge concern. We're in control of taxpayer monies. We have to fix things. We have to upgrade things. So this is not my personal checkbook. This is the citizens' money. So I try to look at this as, if this is my business, which I consider this one of 3 in a business running it, being able to spend the money correctly, and did I get the most bang for the buck that I could get? So that's what I look at.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear this. What would you say are the top 2 or 3 greatest assets of Washington County?
Cost of living would be a great asset, and low crime, because of the sheriff's department and what they do. And also, I don't want to discount Marietta PD. I don't want to discount Belpre PD. They all help keep us safe. So that low crime rate. We don't wake up every morning and have murders. We don't have break-ins every day. Now, there's a lot of things that we are concerned about. We have crime. Everybody has crime. But keeping that low enough to where we feel safe to walk outside of our doors and walk down the street at 8, 9 o'clock at night, we feel safe. And if we had the other way, we wouldn't feel safe, and it would hurt business and such. So that's probably one of the greatest things that we have here. Low cost of living.
Yes, very low.
Very, very low in comparison to Cuyahoga County, Franklin County and such, where housing is so much more expensive. Gasoline, it's less here. At times, it seems to fluctuate though.
It fluctuates all the time, in my opinion.
Yes. For instance, I have a diesel car. I can pay $4.50 a gallon here, but I can go to Little Hawking and pay $4.09.
Yes. Or if you go to Alliance, it's even cheaper than that.
So, but overall, cost of living in the county, the property taxes are less. Everything seems to be less. We have a lot of farms in this area, so our food costs are less. It takes less to ship them. So, and
Okay.
you can go to Hensler's Market, you can go to Witten's, and I don't want to leave anybody out. You can go up to Lowell, or you can go up to the farmers markets are great here. That's things that happen every weekend.
Yes, I love them.
Yes.
Are there more plans to build, I'm going to say, I would love to see a facility for homeless people. I'd like to see a facility for mental illness treatment and more social services in the county. Is there any way that can happen sometime in the future? I know it's a big expense. I know it's not easy to do.
It isn't. And the issue with homeless shelters is Now with smartphones, they have smartphones that the federal government gives them. So they can look and see what housing is available from city to city to city. If it was truly to help everybody in Washington County or surrounding areas, makes sense. But these are folks that they just migrate around. So when we're spending, I go back to when we're spending taxpayer money, I've got to look at what I'm benefiting the most for Washington County.
Okay.
So, but as far as senior housing, I'd love to be able to put up more senior housing. As you know, Buckeye Fields is still in the works. Due to inflation, that put a hindrance on it, slowed it down. So we're still in the works of it. We're looking at another spot to possibly do senior housing. We are an aging county, so we have to address the senior housing issue. One gem that we have within our county, though, is our county home. The county home has been revitalized. Deanna Green, who's the new director out there from a couple years ago, has taken over, and the activity in the county home, if a senior is not able to live on their own and live in their home, and that's a tough thing to do. I've had this home for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and now I'm not able to live on my own. That's okay. The county home was built to help you out. Not that you need a nurse every day, not that you need, but everything would be taken care of. Meals, clothing, medicine, doctors, the whole 9 yards. They have doctors that even come into the home, and even if you just need somebody to talk to, they talk to you. They also have one provision they changed out at the home also. During COVID, the home would be shut down, visitors would not be able to go. And they brought what they call a J-pad in, and it looks like an iPad or an Android tablet that relatives could apply and say, my parents are in there, I would like to talk to them, or my mom or my dad or my grandparents. I'd like for them to be able to call me. This literally has a picture on the tablet that they can just press it, and they can call their loved one, and they can video call them unlimited. So they could, even if the home would be shut down tomorrow, those people would be able to talk to their loved ones. And we know, we've learned a lot from the pandemic, is that staying in contact with your loved ones is key.
How many people can reside in the county home?
About 60.
And are there any plans to enlarge that or build a second building on that beautiful piece of property?
Well, that's where Buckeye Fields is poised to land. And that'll be for folks that don't want to live in the home, but still want to live on their own, but maybe not take care of a house. And they could live in about a 900 square foot duplex.
And how many units are there?
It's poised to get 32, be a total of 64 units available.
I hope it happens very soon.
We're knocking on wood, yes.
Do you feel that there needs to be more economic development in Washington County?
There does. If we want to stay on the edge of keeping our young people here, we do need to continually work on economic development. Now, the Port Authority handles most of that. They are a quasi part of, they're not a direct government department, but they're a quasi governmental entity.
You know, I had no idea about this relationship until I got to Marietta.
Yes.
I still don't understand it at all.
So
What do they do?
just because they're a Port Authority doesn't mean that they have a dock down on the river.
Well, that's what I was thinking of, ships.
So what they do is, it is comprised of a lot of local leaders, including business owners, and including other leaders, that all totally focus on economic development for the county. So for instance, the old AEP plant up in Waterford, Ohio, was just laying there bare.
Correct.
And now the Port Authority owns that. And they are developing to get businesses to come in and reoccupy that space. So
Okay.
instead of it just sitting empty, the goal, of course, is to fill that park as an industrial park, and so it is open up there. Jesse Roush is the Port Authority director, and he would be the person to speak to. He fields calls on a daily basis.
Okay, we just might have to do that.
Yes.
I feel that the hilly topography
Yes.
of the county affects the economic development. There's not a lot of flat land where you can put up a
Correct.
big warehouse and employ 500 people.
And that goes back to something that I ran on, which I really should have brought up at the beginning. One of my concerns has been broadband.
Yes.
Broadband is a challenge in this county. But again, going back to the roots of the campaign, I just didn't say a lot of stuff just to do it. I'm still very involved in continuing the expansion of broadband within the county. The gentleman that runs that and that board volunteer their time and have for over 3 years.
That is a big job. I didn't realize how challenging it is.
Oh, it's huge. So you can have a house down in the holler, but then have your neighbor up on the hill, and they figure out ways to get broadband to the first house so then they can bounce it down to them.
Okay.
So
Is there a timeline to get the county up to power with everybody else as far as broadband? So we are on an equal basis with other counties
it will take years.
here?
It will take years.
Wow. Okay.
But I can say this, the Southeast Ohio Broadband Cooperative, which I was one of the founding members, of course I had to resign when I won the primary, because then you can't have that. They continually work on ways, and it's always a challenge. For instance, State Route 26.
Okay.
That has been an area that has been just left on its own for so many years. They now have, there's two drops, excuse me, a fiber drop is what I say. So the fiber runs out to the old Dart School. So from there, they've been able to hook up Little Muskingum Fire Department and some houses off of it, and a couple people up and down State Route 26, but there's soon be scheduled 3 more drops, which means more people get hooked up.
Wow.
And that is the key. Cell phones don't work out there, landlines only. So I worry about my fire and EMS
Okay.
that don't have cell service. Or if they're transporting, let's say, a cardiac patient, they transmit information to the hospital en route. But if they don't have mobile data or any way to hook up, there's no way to transfer that information to the hospital. So if the hospital's ready when the patient arrives, they have a heart attack or a stroke, they're sending statistics. They're sending all the reading blood pressure and then pulse, and that's about my extent of medical knowledge to the hospital so that they are ready
Okay.
for them when they get there.
Everything's so complicated, isn't it?
It all ties together.
Nothing's by itself.
No.
No. I know living in Cuyahoga County, there was a very active land bank. And I know Washington County doesn't have that. Can you explain if it's ever going to happen? If not, why not? If so, why? What is the thinking behind that?
A land bank is a committee that can acquire property and dispose of property. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of power for one entity to have. So if they see a blighted property, I look at my home, I look at other homes. Is it right for me to say, I don't think you should have your house that way, or it's not up to par? That is a lot of power to acquire that property. Now, it all depends on how the land bank is wrote up, all the rules governing. But once you set that into place, it's very hard to unring that bell. So if you put a committee of 5 people on that committee of 5 says who can buy that property and who cannot buy that property. It's a lot of power. Now, the municipalities, if the city of Marietta would want to do one on their own, they can. If the city of Belpre wanted to do their own, they can. If any of the townships wanted to do their own land bank, they could.
Okay, so it didn't have to be countywide. It could
Correct.
be individual
Right.
towns or villages.
It's my belief that I don't think that we should make something countywide.
Okay.
I would have to see a vote on that before
Okay.
I would be in favor of that.
Okay, that's fair enough. I assume that you mentioned the sheriff. I assume that you work closely with the sheriff, the courts, et cetera, as part of your job.
Mainly when they want money.
Okay. Oh, that's true, that's
Yes.
true. But I know, I read the reports in the newspaper, and I know that domestic violence is an issue every single week. And are there programs to address that issue? Because it seems to be an ongoing problem in this county all the time.
There are, and I would refer them to Job and Family Services. If someone needs help, of course, there's Eve, and there's a lot of folks with the women's home. But if, depending on what you need, you could always call JFS, and if you need some social services, there's a lot that's not taken advantage of.
Yes, there's a lot that people don't know about.
Exactly. So you just have to call and ask.
Yeah, I was surprised at how much Buckeye Regional Hills does.
Oh, yeah, Buckeye, Buckeye Hills.
Yeah, and I thought, well, why don't they tell people that?
Right, yes.
What is your biggest disappointment so far as what you hope to achieve and it hasn't happened yet, or it's taken longer than you thought, or?
Government works slow. That's probably my biggest disappointment. It's so long to get anything done because it has to hit so many steps. As a private business owner, for instance, my trucking company, if I need to go buy equipment, I go buy equipment. When you deal with the government, you have to put it out to bid, you have to advertise it, you have to put it out for 3 weeks, and then you have to accept the bids and read them, review them. So it takes a long time to get things done in government,
Do you always have to take the lowest bid?
depending on how it's bid.
Okay.
Depending on how it's bid, you'll set up scoring criteria, and based upon those scoring criteria, someone can disqualify themselves too. So no, you don't. You can say lowest and best.
Lowest and best, okay. Are there any other information you'd like to share with us this morning that I have not covered?
I think we've covered a lot.
Well, I might have missed something.
I can't think of anything right off bat. I just say that, I really do enjoy this job. To me, it's a challenge, and I like to overcome challenges. So, I don't have a college degree. I just have life experience. So, I can't help but compliment the other two members of this team, Commissioner Ritter and Commissioner Schilling. This isn't a one-person deal. This is a team that has been able to do these things that we've talked about here today.
Well, you're right, you are a team, unlike the previous commissioners who weren't as willing to be a team. That's my opinion.
And that's unfortunate
Yes.
too, because it does take more than one or two to get things done. And you have to be willing to bounce ideas off each other. I'm a spitball kind of guy. I say exactly what's on my mind. For instance, your questions, I saw them, but I didn't write anything down. I didn't prepare anything because I say exactly what's on my mind. That a lot of times can create conversation. Now, whether it works for that conversation or it doesn't, at least it created conversation. That's what.
Well, I thank you so much for your time, and I must say you're my 5th interview, and all 5 individuals have been very honest, forthright, and have been very well informed, and I'm very impressed with every single one of them.
Well, thank you very
It's been a
much.
delightful experience for me,
I appreciate the compliment.
and I hope that if people will view this video and learn something about you and the county commissioner's role in the county.
Well, thank you very much. I do also.
Thank you so much.
So, just so everybody knows, our meetings are right here in our conference room, and they usually happen on Thursdays at 9 a.m. So anybody in the public can join us. And those meetings, sometimes they are changed, and there can be different days. Most normally it's Thursdays at 9, but sometimes we have to change it due to our schedules. For instance, tomorrow is our weekly meeting at 9 o'clock here.
Okay.
And usually that would be on Thursday, but we had to move it up a day to accommodate some schedules. So,
That's an interesting time, Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning.
well, all the departments have to have their requests to be put on the agenda by Tuesday at noon. So then our clerk in Cowdery will compile that and get with the president and make sure that's okay on the agenda. And then that agenda is published late Tuesday. So usually it's before he heads home for the day. So that's how things go. And then there's announcements at the bottom of that agenda, so you can see if there's a meeting change or if the courthouse is closed or anything that you need.
Well, one more question. How many departments are there in the county?
There's a ton. Depends on where you're talking, government agency or government departments or quasi-government.
Oh, whatever you want to count.
It's massive.
Massive.
Government is huge, and we don't need to expand it. We need to work with what we've got,
Mhm.
is my opinion. So
So it's one of the biggest employers along with the hospital.
it is. Hospital's bigger, but yes,
Yeah.
we are a huge employer.
Okay. Well, it was delightful to talk with you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.